Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wonderful Wednesday. It's Don Anderson and host Leslie Schneider for yet another Wonderful Wednesday. Say
That's
hello,
right.
Leslie.
That's right. Hello, everyone. Hello.
We aim to please and have some fun. We're going to have some fun. You guys are on your own. I hope you have some fun too. If you don't, that's on you. But, hey. But anytime we're talking about politics, and we're going to talk about politics, anytime you're talking about Democrats, say, look, it's serious business, but they are so bad that there's always room for laughter. And so today's laughter topic is the guy who ran for governor against DeSantis. It's scary to think this guy lost by just a whisker. I mean, it was like, I think it was less than 10,000 votes that he lost. And this guy got arrested. Let me see if I can read the details on this because it's so hilarious.
So
This
let's
guy had
let's let's not forget he was Tallahassee mayor before
that
he ran
Tallahassee
for governor.
mayor. Unbelievable. I mean, these guys are such criminals. I mean, he got arrested with a glass pipe sitting on the center of the council, right? This is not like it was hiding in the glove box or something, right? This guy had a crack pipe on the council, right? You can't make this up. Here was the guy. Here's what else was in the car: 3 grams of methamphetamine, 8 pre-rolled marijuana joints, 4 cut straws, 3 pipes, and a bong. I mean, come on, man. You can't
That's
even make
that's
it.
uh that's no Spicoli there.
No. I mean, and this guy was the mayor of a city,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
it's like,
Mayor of Tallahassee had big aspirations, and he ran against DeSantis. And like you said, DeSantis barely pulled it out. And the only reason he pulled it out was why?
yeah, I, you know,
They
I
stopped the
don't,
vote counting. They had
well,
hundreds
that's
and
right.
hundreds of ballots coming in overnight, days after. I mean, ballot, all over the place. DeSantis is up. Next thing you know,
Uh,
and
you
a
know,
judge stopped the ballot counting. And
there's just
goodness,
no, the level of crime that it's like the whole party's filled with criminals. You can't even believe it. I mean, how he got elected mayor in the first, this guy was a mayor. We're not talking dog catcher or something, right? He would be disreputable as a dog catcher. I mean, this guy got a major drug habit, and you just don't get that overnight.
well, and don't
Um,
forget after he lost, he was arrested, or maybe it was before. Yeah, so was it before after he lost or before he lost? He was arrested. He was in a hotel room with a male escort.
oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Um,
So,
wow,
I mean, the guy's
wow,
got a whole lot of rotten wrapped up in him. And
yeah.
law enforcement knew it. Obviously, the party handlers knew it, and nobody cared.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reddest of
Listen,
the red state.
yeah. The media will not report on this stuff. For one thing, the major media won't report on it, and the Democratic Party apparatus knows about it and pushes these guys anyway, which is a great segue into the guy in Maine. I can't think of his name,
Plattner.
Plantner. Plantner. So this guy's gotten in even more trouble. Yet another woman has come forward. And the crack up is now they want to yank the guy. And this is the thing, they're not yanking him because of the crime against this woman. They're yanking him because they're looking at the polls and thinking there's no way he's going to win, which is appalling, right? If his poll numbers were cool, they would not care.
No, because his poll numbers were fine after the Nazi tattoo. They were fine after
Right.
there were what, 6 women that he admitted to, sexting with while he was
Mhm.
married. He just got married in 2023. It's not like the guy's been married for 20, 40, 50 years and like, okay, we
Right.
can understand that there might have been some youthful transgression somewhere. No, this guy,
Yeah.
you know. And by the way, he did suspend his Senate campaign tonight.
Oh, he
Yeah.
did. See, I missed that. Wow. So they put the heat on him. I wonder what the payoff was to get him to
Well,
quit.
that's the thing. That's the thing you have to wonder is all the dragging the feet is because he was waiting for something better to be offered. We're going to put you on this committee. We're going to put you in this board position. We're going to, right? They've got,
They had to buy him off and he was holding out like a negotiator boy. It's like, what am I going to get if I step down? So, and then here's the next thing. So they're not going to have another. They're not going to have another election for this. So it's going to be selected by the party.
yeah, they're going to appoint and there's I guess they've got They've got a few people that they're kind of floating. Shenna Bellows, who's the Maine Secretary of State. Troy Jackson, who apparently has already been discredited because there's video of him throwing a beer bottle at a woman in a meeting. Dan.
A beer bottle at a woman. Well, I guess that's better than a punch. I don't know.
I guess it depends how hard and, whatever. But apparently this is like MO. This is all like standard operating procedure for these guys. He, in office, he threw a beer bottle at this woman in a meeting, and everybody just went, "Oh, okay." Next item. Like nobody cares. Dan Kleben, I don't know who that guy is. Hannah Pingree and Jordan Wood. So they've got a lineup of people that they're considering. But you think, that who was that strategic research company that was hired to vet candidates before they ran them, and they knew what Plattner had in his
They went with
closet. So
these are things that such obvious red flags. It's going to come up. It's like remember Clinton and the bimbo eruptions back in like the 80s, right? They're just going to keep coming up, and you keep suppressing them. Somehow they got Slick Willie through.
Yeah.
But this guy was just, I guess, it was a bridge too far for this guy.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that there was originally a Republican accuser, and they blew her off, and then they just came. Then this latest one is like a Democrat accuser who, basically so that's the reason why they're paying attention. It's okay to, whatever. Me Too only works in one direction, and that's
right. Right. Unbelievable. I had to comment. So Carol just came on the chat line. This is your neck of the woods. She says she's in San Diego and it's worse than Portland. The streets are. Wow. Yikes.
Yeah. What part of, Carol, what part?
I'm almost.
Sorry, I'm wondering what part of town she's in, because the Oceanside streets are terrible. Oceanside and Vista streets are terrible. Downtown is terrible. Actually, the only thing paving the streets is probably homeless people and feces.
And feces. Well, I remember when I was there, I first got there, it was the mid 80s. And went to downtown San Diego because, this is cool. I was in LA. Let's go to San Diego. And I was shocked at how pathetic it was in the mid 80s. The downtown.
Yeah, it was gross.
It was gross. And then, all that beautiful waterfront stuff, how they let it be so gross. Then it got cleaned up in the 90s. It was looking good, right? And I moved in 2001. But in the late 90s, it was hopping down. It was looking nice restaurants. What's that nice mall that was downtown? All of that. It was great. And now I'm hearing it's just an armpit.
They had to close Horton Plaza because nobody was shopping. Part of that was the economy, but part of it was just really gross. And then they actually had to turn off. So they shut down the mall, and they shut down the fountain because homeless people were bathing in the fountain.
Yeah, that happened in Portland too, man. It was, and it was not a pretty sight either, because they took their clothes off, shall we say? Oh, she says Wyndham by Star of the Sea.
Oh, is that in Carlsbad? Carlsbad's nice.
I think it's downtown. I think that's downtown.
Oh, okay.
San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. And I hear you, Lori, about Astoria and Seaside. See, I feel so sad to hear that. I've not been. So Astoria and Seaside are on the Oregon coast, and they're beautiful little towns, or at least they used to be. Yep. This is what happens, though, when you have blue run areas. It's just.
Yeah.
It's just part of the deal.
Yeah. But it's so compassionate, Don.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I saw a podcast yesterday about Seattle. They now passed Portland for the highest vacancy rates in the country. 37% vacancy rates. Now it's all cleaned up because of the soccer deal that's going on, and people are coming to town. And so it's cleaned up and nice and neat. but this person say, but as soon as those people leave, you know what's going to happen. They're coming right back, right? And that's, you gotta. It's, I don't know.
It,
What is it going
it
to?
kind of reminds me of, and I don't know if this is real or if I just like saw this in like a fairy tale or something, but basically the idea of the royals, or the nobility riding by the villages in old Europe, and they're riding by these villages that are just poor, starving peasants. Nothing is growing in the fields, tattered clothing, but they put up these facades that show this bucolic countryside and happy peasants like holding baskets of grain and of overflowing, fruit, whatever, cornucopias, and beautiful little townships. And because they're so far away, the nobility can't see it. The king can't see it. He doesn't know that it's not real. That's how it feels when they do these cleanups. Remember when President of China came over and Newsom cleaned up, downtown San Francisco.
Right.
Well, we've got the Olympics coming to LA in 28, right? So 2 years. And he's going to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, for sure. That's going to be interesting. Yeah. Because the whole world comes, and dude, are we going to show them that? I guess the media shows them that every day. But
people are going to come and they're going to see it, and they're going to be like, I don't know where you're going to put all these druggy homeless people. There's so many people, tourists that are going to be coming in. Where are you? It's like, where are you going to push these people out to? I mean, where, literally, it's Sacramento. Where are you going to push them out to? Riverside? I mean, I don't.
Portland and Seattle seem to find a way. Whenever there's a major person that comes to town, they hide them away.
Yeah, but LA's big. LA's a lot bigger than those two towns, and people are going to be staying in, sprawled out all over the place.
Right. Yeah. I guess they'll take them to Palm Springs.
You know who's in Palm Springs?
There's
a whole lot of very cultured homosexuals in Palm Springs. They do not put up with that. They are very protective of their neighborhoods, and good for them. They want everything to look good and clean.
Yeah, they're not going to have
it.
They're not.
I mean, good for them for keeping it clean and real. But it's not going to be Palm Springs. It's probably going to be like somewhere gross, backside of Riverside, Bakersfield, whatever.
Move out there with the poor people.
Yeah,
that's what you do.
Yeah, give them a job. Have them work in the field. I mean, I don't know.
With the work people. Job? What are you talking about? Work? That's a 4-letter word. Work. So moving right along, you had a case. What was it? Was it Robinson? Was that the guy?
Yeah, Tyler Robinson.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right. So this week is the pretrial for the Tyler Robinson trial. What the prosecutors are trying to do is establish enough, show enough evidence that they are able to get a trial to charge him for the murder of Charlie Kirk. So that's the point of this week, is they're just showing evidence in order to establish the fact that they can have a trial. All the words are leaving me, but anyway. So they've been doing, today's day 3. They've been looking at surveillance videos of Robinson's moves. They've been looking at footage of the assassination. Some items were introduced that had both Robinson's fingerprints on it and also his lover, whose last name is Twig. So everybody's just calling this guy Twig. And Twig apparently has come out as a the words are leaving me, but basically he's testifying against Robinson, and so he now has some legal protections, and he's written a statement that he had provided earlier to police, and that's going to be read this week. So people are kind of excited to hear what that is all about. But yeah, it's there's all sorts of people in the courtroom, including Charlie's wife Erica, and it's pretty emotional.
Well, I can't take it, by the way, so I just haven't watched it. In the same way that I'm probably the only guy in the world that's never watched the Zapruder tapes from JFK's assassination. That kind of stuff just takes me out, right? But what can you say? The thing is there's definitely a correlation between this trans business and violence. I mean, have you noticed how many of these attempted assassinations, and every time is these people who have some kind of gender dysphoria mindset going on that are engaging in this stuff? I don't know. We handle that as a society, but clearly there's a problem with this, and there's going to be a problem with these people. There is a problem.
Yeah, there is a problem. I think anybody who doesn't recognize this, and I think that's the minority of people out there, most people recognize that this is not a real thing. And they're trying to be compassionate. Of course, when it you want to be especially compassionate. Children live in a fantasy world most of the time, right? And we encourage that. We want them to do fantasy play. We want them to aspire for things, dream about your future. We want them to be creative because they're in school and they're learning all sorts of concepts, and so they have to be in their head a lot. And we want that, and we want to be patient and tolerant. But this is just incredibly destructive. There was who's the gal's name? Chloe somebody, who she's become a major advocate against the trans movement. She herself, as a girl, transed to becoming a boy, and and she had a mastectomy and was taking all the drugs, and then she detransitioned because she realized how wrong it was. Mm-hmm. Then she's now leading this effort with a bunch of other folks. Anyway, she's hooked up with an organization that is out trying to prove that Planned Parenthood, who is all in on women's health, right, and is all in on offering transitioning services, they don't have any capability or even any grasp of the need for detransitioning support. So they got.
Well, they're not going to do that.
well, I mean, we know that, but during this whole effort, that where Planned Parenthood has been arguing, we're women's health, we're women's health, we're reproductive health, we fill a niche that isn't being filled. We provide all of this stuff, and I remember there was an effort a couple of years ago by pro-life activists who were calling Planned Parenthood and saying things like, do you offer sonograms? No. Do you offer, breast exams? No. Do you, do any sort of other health screening? No. All they did was hand out birth control and perform abortions. There was no women's health. There was no health part of it. It was two agenda items. It was, contraception and abortions, and that's it. And they called hundreds of these clinics in order to document that they're just not doing it, in an effort to argue against them getting federal funding for women's health support because they weren't offering it.
Well, that's what the profit margin is. The profit margins in removing children from the planet. That's that's the business model.
Well, that's
preferably in minority neighborhoods.
That's right. That's right. It's destruction of humanity before they get here. And if we can't if we can't get rid of them before they get here, when they get here, we're going to destroy their lives and their family lives.
Yeah. It's an evil. It's so evil. It's beyond. It's beyond discussion, right? That this actually exists. You think about this, in the Old Testament, what happened to those folks when they did these kinds of things? We're doing the same thing, except we're not doing it in public. We're not setting babies on fire on some altar, right? But the end result's the same, and we're more efficient at it too. So,
yep.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to do that in public, if people really knew what the process was, and I didn't know what the process was. I mean, I was kind of neutral on abortion for a long time. Um, and but once you know what the actual procedure is, um, it's gruesome, man. There's no, and more people need to know it. There was a move a number of years, maybe 20 or 30 years ago. People were putting pictures of the process on giant signs and standing by the road. And obviously the problem with that is for women who've had that is extremely traumatizing. I get that. But the argument could be had that this is the only way to get more people to sit up and understand it. If you look at like slavery, that was out in your face, everybody could see it. It was obviously wrong, right? This is a hidden thing. You drive by the abortion clinic and you don't see any blood on the sidewalk or any. It looks all clean and neat and clinical and nice. And oh, you go there to get your eyes examined. It's the same looking facility. You know, you could walk around and think nothing of it, like I did for a long
Yeah,
time.
I was the same way. I really had no
Yeah.
idea. I really had no idea. And frankly, when I encounter information describing it, I have to turn it off because I can't.
Mhm.
I'm just one of those people that it stays with me and it haunts me. And I've already, recognized how disgusting and wrong it is. And so the conclusion has already been reached. And so I don't need it to know any of that stuff in order to do anything more. I'm already like staunchly against, and I'll tell anybody. But some people need to see those images.
Yeah.
They need,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm not saying we should, but the argument could be made, and I don't know where I come down on that. I'm just saying the argument could be made
Yeah.
that it needs to be right in their face.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, there was a surgeon, a guy who did it for a long time, did these abortions, and he testified in front of Congress. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe that was a few years ago. It was on, and he described exactly. He had all his tools on the table, and he went through it blow by blow. And you could see like there were like women in the back in Congress, like like in tears, right? I mean, there were people who just couldn't. It is like brutal, man. And I don't know how human beings do some of the things they do. And this guy said he did like thousands of them. I don't know how you live with yourself.
And in a country where you're not coerced to do it, it's not like the Chinese doctors that, are coerced to do these medical experiments or, take out the organs and body parts of people in the prison camps, right? We're not.
Yeah.
He could quit his job any day.
Well, it seems like you have a couple of kinds of people. You have the two faces of evil, right? The one, I'm just here for the money. And you see this not just with this issue, but like, let's say Congress people who do all kinds of like crazy stuff, but it's strictly for the money. It's like the spy who sells secrets just because of the money. He's got no ideology. I'm just trying to line my pockets. And then there's the ones who's ideological. I hate my country. I want to destroy it. I hate God. I want to kill his children. Right. And those are two, but they work together to get the same result. But we strayed away from some news, didn't we?
Well, we did. I remember there was an article about, back to Florida. There was an article about how DeSantis is trying to get rid of, proposed to his state legislators to eliminate the property tax for all California homeowners.
Yes, I saw that.
And in a deeply red state, they gutted the bill.
Now, see, this is an example of why the founders were so brilliant. And everybody talked about that. Give the government some power, man, they will never let go of it. I mean, it's just they have to spend money. They can't help themselves. They just have to spend it. I mean, you got a state where it's like swimming in money, right? Just cut the taxes, give the citizens back their stuff. I almost think, and if we ever got enough of a congressional majority, who knows? Anything's possible. I'll never say anything's impossible. I think we should literally pass a law that caps taxes everywhere at a certain amount. It will never go above this. And to me, the natural rate of taxation is somewhere around 25%. The average person's cool with paying 25 up to 25%. I'm talking all taxes, state, local, all together. Once you get above that, people start feeling like they're getting cheated, and so they start evading the tax. They start avoiding the tax or evading them.
Yeah.
And and the data pretty much shows around the world that once taxation gets above that, and once it gets above 40 or 50%, people are doing all kinds of stuff, getting paid under the table, barter. They're doing everything they can to not pay it, right?
Yeah.
Like in Italy, I think they have 80% taxation or something in Italy, but nobody's paying the taxes. So the government coffers are damn near empty because people just simply, they either stop working. Why work if it's all going to somebody else? Or they just don't pay the taxes.
Wow.
So we're kidding ourselves once you get beyond a certain percentage anyway.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's a perfect case. It's a conservative state, and they still can't bring themselves to freaking give the people their money back.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's like you just think and what it does is it proves to you, for all the people that think, well, gosh, if we could just get a conservative majority, that all of our problems will go away. No.
Because never forget this adage, government by definition attracts the worst among us. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, but the exception proves the rule. Generally speaking, the people who seek government are narcissists and they love power, right? And how you get power is to make your pond bigger. And how you make your pond bigger is to have more programs and have more taxes. It's like it's very difficult for these people to make a smaller pond. Let's say once you create a government program, it's permanent. And it's funny too, because this is a great segue into kind of a related thing. Think about the civil rights organizations, right? So let's say, for example, NAACP. When it was founded back in 1909, it had a great reason to be there. There was all kinds of problems, obviously. Democrat Party clans running wild. Democrat Party governors won't let kids go to school. Democrat Party's got grandfather laws. Isn't there a common theme here? It always sees the Democrat Party. So 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, 16th Amendment, all that's being ignored because the Democrat Party is blocking it. NAACP comes along and they do a great job. And guess what? By 1985 or so, all those problems are solved. Mm-hmm. So suddenly, what's the reason for the organization to exist? Does the organization just go away or shift to a problem that really exists? Like no dads in the home? No, they got to keep the racism problem going so they can keep the money coming. They behave just like the government, man. And they're not solving anything except lining their pockets. It's just how human nature works.
That's right. That's right.
One thing I would say good about them is at least it's a private outfit. So they got to go hit other people up for money. The government puts a gun to your head and steals your money anyway, which makes it always worse than any private outfit.
Yeah. In that same vein, there was an article. John Fleischman has a great Substack that out of California, and it's called "So Does It Matter?" And he wrote an article called "The Great California School Downsizing," and it talks about how because the just to back up a little bit, the Florida coffers were overflowing with the property tax revenue because so many people were moving to the state. And so they had this influx of, good news, which translated, people moving to the state. So then that generated all sorts of property taxes, right? So here it is, when it rains, it pours, and they're excited and they're, thinking of all new programs to spend on, and they're and then hoarding their money when they have an opportunity to actually give it back put it there in the first place. Okay. So that's the behavior there. And it is the same behavior that's happening in California because it is human nature, as we were just talking about. So in California, a lot of the school districts are suffering with low enrollment. And that is being caused by, especially some of the swankier districts, right? I mean, the swankier towns, San Diego, San Francisco, LA. And that is the reason is one, there's more competition. There's, COVID really opened up the spigot for alternative education. So charter schools and private schools and homeschooling, right? So competition.
Right.
But it also, there are fewer families that can afford to live in these cities. And so
Sure.
people with families are not moving to those bigger, those bigger cities. People who live in those cities aren't having children or having fewer children. So,
Yep.
so you've got, for a long, long, long time, like through the 80s and the 90s, California was growing and families were coming. It was affordable. And so people
Yep.
had kids, and the schools were bringing in, all sorts of, everybody was passing a bond, and they were building new buildings, and they had new programs, and they were hiring their staff. Well, now that, so here are the numbers. California's public school enrollment has dropped from a peak of 6.3 million in 2004, 6.3 million, to roughly 5.8 million today. Okay. And the state projects another 500,000 students will disappear in the next decade. Another 500,000. 630 schools have closed since 2015. So in the last 11 years, 630 schools have closed. LAUSD, so Los Angeles, went from nearly 747,000 students to 400,000.
Whoa, that's almost half.
But still employs over 55,000 people.
So at the ratio of employees to students has not changed, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
It's probably gone up.
Yeah. What is that, like 8 to 1? Like 8 students for every one staff person, right? Am I mathing right?
And test scores have been what?
San Francisco has 125 campuses built for students who no longer exist and has faced deficits topping $100 million. But rather than shrink staffing and facilities to match the enrollment like any private industry would do, right? The political response has trended more toward taxes and efforts to decouple funding from actual enrollment numbers. So
I've heard, yeah.
Right. So in my little district where my kids went to school, to elementary school, there's 2 ways that schools are funded. One is by pupil attendance. So that's why they really rail on you when your kid doesn't come to school for that day, because they don't get money for your kid that day.
Right.
But the way that California has written their rules, if your property taxes for a school district area reach a certain threshold, then that school district just gets that money. It does not, there's nothing that ties student enrollment to that money at all. So those districts are not motivated at all to offer innovative programming or highly competitive academics or amazing athletics, because they get the same amount of money whether there's 50 kids in the class or 20 or 10.
And see, this is why, and it's not going to happen until you have a conservative majority take over or whatever, but it's got to either go school choice, somebody's got to come in and just slash and burn. Like in a private business, you give it the cold eye, and you would say which schools should be in this geography, which ones shouldn't, based on the number of students we have. And then what is the performance, just like in any business, which ones are performing, which ones aren't performing. The ones that are performing are going to be done. And the ones that don't have enough, geography, what do you call it, students in geography to justify it. It's like that every time with government. I mean, like in Portland, the same problem. I mean, there's a bunch of school buildings that should be gone. Like one of the biggest high schools in my neighborhood. I didn't go to this high school, but in the neighborhood, it had around 2,500 students when I was in school. Now it's got like 300. And they bust them in from all over the place, right? It's like a 3-story old school brick building. And it's open only because it's this is hilarious about Portland, a historically Black neighborhood. We're talking Portland. There are no historically Black neighborhoods. At its peak, the high school had 50% of the students are Black, right? That's the Portland. And now it's got like 200 or 300 students. And the other thing is, because of the regentrification, they don't live in that neighborhood anymore because gays have moved in and gays don't have kids. So you got all these crazy pressures, and they won't close these buildings, and they're costing a fortune. In fact, they did a giant renovation program on these schools, and physically they're beautiful. They did the same thing in Southwest Washington. So they'll take an old. Here's another. This is a funny one. You know, the worst neighborhood in any city is going to be named Martin Luther King Street. It's going to go right down the middle of it. Everybody knows this. You're not supposed to say it. That's the fact, Jack. Right. Here's another one for you. Everybody knows it. You're not supposed to say it. If there's high schools named after the president, it's going to be another nightmare neighborhood. Right?
Oh, wow.
If it's Jefferson, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Adams, don't send your kid to that school, boy. They're going to be shooting and slashing going on at that school. I'm not supposed to say it, but I said it. I said it because you can't.
Right.
I told y'all you're
I have to be so careful. I'm
I told
offended.
y'all chat
I'm
line, you're
offended,
gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
But so they took like Franklin High School here and like Roosevelt, and they redid them in like the Independence Hall style and they're absolutely beautiful. I'm telling you, schools, these buildings are just beautiful, but there's nothing going on inside. I mean, you've done nothing to improve. I'd rather you be in a hut and have the kids actually read some literature and increase their test scores than be in these Taj Mahals of education. They look like they're in the Ivy League or something, and the kids come out dumber than a box of rocks, man. And that's
Or sell it to a private school.
yeah, right.
Private schools are looking to expand. They always need new buildings, right?
Yeah.
Sell it to those guys.
But yeah, and they're like, and there's been, I can't remember, millions on these buildings, millions. It's incredible. I drive by them and on this side of the river. They've not done that kind of renovation. They've done, major money on these buildings, and the school population is dropping. I can't give you the percentages over here. I know Portland's way down. I mean, Oregon in general, the school population's way down, and by percent, obviously at bigger numbers in California, but by percentage, it's probably just as bad.
Yeah. Well, the California Teachers Union is the strongest lobbying force in the state. And SEIU, we all know who SEIU is, right? Because they were that's who controls the classified employees. So the secretaries and the janitors. So between the Teachers Union and SEIU, and it's probably the same up in Portland, right? Where you've got these powerful unions. They're not going to let go. They're not going to let go. Yeah. And, what's crazy is, what was it like in 2018, there was the Janus decision that allowed, that no longer required teachers to be in the teachers union in order to work.
Yeah.
And, so it's not just teachers union, but it was like anybody, like nobody has to be part of a union as a requirement for employment. However, and union membership has fallen, for some of these organizations. However, the talking points and the media has completely ignored that. And so, there's just, when I know that in a lot of school districts, the union negotiates into their contract that they are to receive the personal contact information of all new incoming employees. And they call that person. So the employer hands over personal information to an outside entity. And they call that person and they give them a little sales presentation on joining the union. And there's no other side, like, well, we're the non-union team, there's no other perspective. And so you've got, so anyway, that's a lot of it is, and these unions are the ones who fund all the campaigns. So, legislators, elected officials are all the ones who have to make these decisions, which for us is very easy. Like, you've got two people in a classroom,
right?
You're going to collapse that classroom, and now it's going to be second and third grade classroom. It's like years, or it's going to be a 1 through 6. Maybe we just go back to one-room schoolhouses. Maybe that's where we are in some of these neighborhoods.
I think absolutely something to be said for that. I mean, it's the bigger these unions, the bigger the school districts are, the less effective they're going to be, the less of a voice a parent can be. Can you imagine walking to LA Unified and thinking you're going to have an influence on what goes on there? My dad went to school in a one-room schoolhouse down in Louisiana. A parent walked in, it was over, Jack. Their parent was king. You know, and you have to get back to that. That's one of the reasons why what was Abraham Lincoln's old adage, whatever the people can do for themselves, they should do for
Yeah.
themselves. I'm of the opinion there shouldn't be any such thing as public school. Now I know there's no way we're a long ways from passing into legislation that says that, but barring that, you got to have competition for it. So the school choice thing is probably the next best thing we can do besides getting rid of it. I mean, let's face it, the people who can't afford to have already walked away from it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see Trump do something where he says, instead of giving it to the state, we're just going to, I mean, at a national level, we're just going to have national, because right now, the feds already fund the states. No longer runs through the DOE, but now it goes directly to the states. There's a lot of other things going on with the DOE that and Trump's funding that I'm not familiar with. There's a lot of complaints, but if he, all that Fed money is flowing directly to the states, from what I understand, and then the states then dole it out. So if he instead said, no, we're not going to give it. We're going to give a small portion maybe to the states, but the bulk of it, we're going to give to the parents so they can take that wherever they want to go. And that's going to be determined by, I don't know what it's going to be determined by, Social Security numbers, or maybe parents have to apply for it. Maybe that's how we do it. I don't know. But I think that
would. Your blue state's never going to vote for it. But if you do it at a federal level, we're going to give a federal, I have no idea what the laws are on this. I'm just pulling this out of nowhere. But if you had a federal voucher system, forget what the state says, right? So Oregon doesn't want to have a voucher system, fine. The feds will offer you X amount of dollars. You want to take your kid to, here's the dollars you take that money, take it wherever you want to go. Man, those parents would be all over that.
Yeah. I mean, the states would be fighting for it. They would be, I mean, just like they're, fighting against every sort of reform. Anything that they can not allow to be handled by the citizens, they're going to do that. We can't trust the citizens to know how to vote properly. We can't trust the citizens to show up with an ID for this or that, the other thing. We can't trust the citizens to know the science or, determine what pharma goes into their bodies. We can't, whatever, so.
It's just human nature. I mean, you can imagine, like, if you had a football game and you had a team that had an opportunity to leverage the referee and nobody be looking, well, they would take advantage of it. And they do. We've seen like all kinds of cheating scams, they're doing point shaving and stealing signs and all this stuff. It's the same thing as, so economics is a great game of economics. If you can get competitive advantage over your buddy, you're going to do it. And the only thing that keeps you from doing it is morality. And we know morality has kind of been out the window lately. And so it's just, that's why the smaller the government, the less damage it can do.
Yeah.
And that's why you want it small. Don't keep your expectations low of government and keep it small. Then it can only destroy so much.
Yeah. So speaking of destroying, I want to talk a little bit about the National Defense Authorization Act, which I think that everyone listening should really go research. Because I don't have all the information, but I listened to an interview this week that was alarming. And I did a little bit more research. There was, so the National Defense Authorization Act is the act that funds our national defense. And there was a bill that was called something else. It was a standalone bill that was then rolled in, that was co-authored by what's his name? It's the guy who ran for president, not DeSantis.
Rubio.
Oh my gosh, my brain is not on tonight. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So there is Section 219 of the National Defense Authorization Act it instructs the Secretary of War to appoint an executive agent to expand U.S.-Israel cooperation on weapons research, co-production, AI, quantum computing, and cyber capabilities. So what this would do is actually a merger. It's a merger between some parts of the US military and the Israeli military. And they're saying that it's a merger in order to increase collaboration. But anytime you're merging anything, you're taking something away, right? And the last thing you want to be doing is merging military force with any other nation, because that takes away our sovereignty, our ability to protect ourselves, our ability to make independent decisions, and our ability to decide which war, which conflict, which policy we are a part of. Israel is a warmongering nation. They have not ever not been in war, right? They're always in war. And we don't want to be a part of that. We're in enough wars. And we've got a president that says he's committed to taking us out of wars and not involving us in the first place. And so this is just a diabolical plan. And they've rolled it into a 1,000-page defense bill. So there's been a couple efforts, 2 efforts to pull it back out of this massive bill so that people can vote on it specifically, and those have both failed. So at this point, there are people that are going to continue to agitate against it. I mean, one of the people agitating against it is Bernie Sanders. Another person is Thomas Massie, which is no surprise because he's very much like a interventionist. Mm-hmm. But Ro Khanna opposes it. Who else? Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, wrote a letter endorsing the framework because that's more money for him, right? And more control. So it's just, it feels very, very dangerous. It actually feels treasonous. It feels like it's against our sovereignty, which is against the Constitution. So I cannot imagine. And if this passes, we will never, ever have to vote ever again for funding of Israel, for getting involved in conflicts that Israel wants us to be a part of. There's no transparency on any of this. I mean, we already give billions of dollars to Israel, and now they would have access to even more. And we've got so much repair that we need to do on our economy. We have repair that we need to do in order to ramp up our own military after the Iran war, and all these other things that have been going on. I mean, the last thing we want is another required expenditure. And this just feels very, very, very dangerous to me. So I would encourage everyone to learn more.
This is the first time I've heard of this, so I'd have to check it out. I know nothing about it, by the way. So,
well, I'll send you the information. It's Section 219 of the National Defense Authorization Act.
Okay. No, I'll be looking forward to checking that out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, we got plenty of things. We got plenty. Kind of as you're talking, you got me thinking about Winston Churchill and the lobbying effort to get us into World War II. And that's a whole other interesting discussion. But it's not like this. Well, the same thing happened with World War I, lobbying effort to get us into World War I as well. Anyways, interesting stuff.
Ted Cruz, he was the guy.
History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. I think it was Mark Twain that said that.
Yeah.
And, how accurate he was with that.
Yeah. No, it's just
and so
no bueno. We don't want to be making decisions with any other nation, even if they're our bestie.
Right.
We don't want to be involved in having to run anything by any other nation, right? It's just.
Well, I think we've come along. I think we should be by now. No, we have no besties. There are, the thing about history, and history teaches us when it comes to countries, you have allies, which are allies today might be your enemies tomorrow. That's happened all the time. I mean, the British were our mortal enemies the first 100 years of our existence. People forget this. They were ostensibly our allies during World War I and II. It looks like they're our enemies again. That's just that we are in such a we're living in such a fascinating time.
Yeah.
You look at, we're looking at almost for sure the end of NATO, for example. Um, whether they actually end it, officially or in practice, it's ending. Did you hear that Trump is basically saying, "Why are we funding Spain?" And he's absolutely right. I mean, Spain won't live up to their stuff. They proudly beat their chest and say they're not living up to it. My whole thing would be was if something happens to Spain, you don't have to get out of the treaty. We just won't do anything. It's like just like they did. We can't use the air base that we've been paying you. We've been covering your defense, dollar for. We're not even asking you for anything except the use of your base. And you said no. That's fine. Okay. Something goes sideways. I guess you're on your own.
Yeah, that's too bad, Spain. Adios.
That's just too bad. Adios. And the same is true for all of the rest of them. You look at what's happening with we all saw, in Europe, there are people dying from like not being able to turn on their air
Oh,
conditioning.
right now they are?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't hear about that? They had that major heat wave and people like dropping like flies in Europe, like thousands. And they were marveling when they came to the United States for the soccer thing. They were marveling because we have air conditioning everywhere. And they're losing people like thousands. It's like 5 times the rate that we have here. And it's mostly old people, of course. And I think it was in France. They said we're going to turn the thermostats to keep it to like 80. Right? Don't. I kid you not. And the reason is, remember, they tried to go all green. They shut down their energy production, relied on Russia, and then turn around and wanted to have war, help Ukraine out against Russia. And guess what Russia did? So what is turn off your energy? So now the energy prices is like 5 times what they were before. Energy prices are so high that countries like Germany, the big manufacturing companies like that, you need energy to build things. So I think BASF, like the largest chemical company in the world, they moved out of Germany. Volkswagen, first time in their history, and moving plants out of Germany. You can't heat your home or cool your home because the prices are so high. They did that to themselves. And Trump told them in the first administration, don't just be reliant. Why don't you buy your energy? Why are you buying it from Russia? That's like, and they did it anyway. And look where they are. It's like these people are such children. I mean, a child could see that that's dumb.
Wow.
And now
I'm surprised he waited so long. I'm surprised he waited so long. I mean, with what NATO's been doing on their border for many years, I'm surprised that he had showed such restraint.
Well, I think a lot of it was, remember when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia was in bad shape. It took them a long time to rebuild themselves and get to a point where, and they're still not all that strong a country. If they were, this would have been over a couple of years ago.
I don't know. You're talking about Ukraine?
Yeah, this Ukraine thing. I mean, Russia's not that strong militarily, or they would have buried it years ago.
Yeah, think about it, Don. Ukraine has been funded by the rest of the world.
And that's
Russia
true.
was only funded by themselves.
And that's true.
So right. I'm not so sure that they're as weak as you're saying.
Yeah, well, I hear you. That's true. But you got a country of 140 million people fighting a country with what, like 7 or 8 million people? I mean, it's like, and this is still going on. It's
well, it makes you wonder who's been fighting for Ukraine. Because their death toll is astronomical. And they do these swaps of the dead, and it'll be like 8 Russians and like 50 Ukrainians.
Well, you know what the Europeans said, man? We'll fight to the last Ukrainian. And that's what they're doing. I mean, they're running out of military aged, pretty soon you get to start getting the 50 or 60-year-olds out there, and you got to start getting the women out there. And eventually, like happens in Eastern Europe all the time, you start getting the 10 and 12-year-olds out there. It is a different, when you live in the United States and we don't know the history, a lot of us don't know the history of those kind of things. We can't fathom this. But if you go back and read history, man, it's like the stuff that's happened in that continent or any continent other than here, it's like unfathomable what went on in World Wars I, II, and by the way, like the 90 or 100 other wars that happened in that century, because there was a whole back of them.
Yeah. I just can't even think about it. It's so frightening.
Yeah. It's not for the squeamish. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing a little research. This is a separate side thing, and then we get close to the end here. A lot of people know about. Everybody knows about Bobby Yar and Treblinka, right? You know, we know about this famous Auschwitz and this famous concentration camps, but very few people know about Unit. I think it's Unit 71 in Japan. If you want to talk about some ghoulish action, they were doing the same things there to the Chinese that the Germans were doing to the Jews, right? These same stuff, like medical experiments, like stuff that's like so horrendous, man, that you got to read it on an empty stomach. And I'll stop it there.
Thank
Um,
you.
let's, let's just say, I'm just sure the Germans looked over there. It's like when the Nazis were at the Bataan death, not Bataan, at the rape of Nanking, and the German correspondent said, the Nazi correspondent wrote, you know, these people are like just barbaric. The Nazis, the Japanese were barbaric. How bad can it be, right? You cannot
Well,
make it up.
yeah, I mean, we were talking last week about Shogun, about that book,
Mhm.
that series, you know, Shogun and
Right.
the other ones where,
Mhm.
I mean, and this was this like in the 1700s? When did Shogun
It was it was in the setting was like I think the 1500s.
1500s, and they were detailing Japanese torture methods. I mean, these
Ooh,
were people like the Romans, you know, they've perfected the art of pain,
yeah.
inflicting pain, and I, ugh, you know,
Our
and
stuff.
I just firmly believe that, like, there's really nothing new under the sun. You know, you had Vlad the Impaler, you know, who you know, it was sport, and thousands and thousands of, you know, people that he would just ram through just for sport, you know, a couple at a time, you know, on the same spike. You know, the Romans were crucifying, you know, they were experts at death, and they were crucifying not just Jews but all kinds of people, you know,
Well,
every
you
week,
know, I'm
thousands of people.
convinced. I'm convinced if lions would talk, you know, if you had like a 20-minute, you know, thing and you sit in the savannah and the lions would have a glass of wine, sit down. He said, man, that two-legged species is sick. We kill zebras, but we only kill them when we're hungry. They
Yeah,
kill just for
right.
fun.
That's right. Well, and I look at the way my cats, you know, will play with a little mouse or a bird, and I, you know, I just kind of like, oh, it kills me. But like you
Yeah,
said, they're gonna eat it. They're not, you
right.
know, it. I mean, they're playing with their food, you know, but it's like but it's over. It's gonna be over pretty quick. They don't spend days and days on it, and it's
Yeah,
not just the purpose to inflict pain. You know, we do
right.
that.
Yeah, we do that, you know, and sometimes we eat them too. That's
Oh my
bad.
gosh, there's a line. Have you seen Young Washington yet?
I
Have
gotta
you
see it. No, not yet.
Okay, I saw it last night. It's wonderful,
Was
and
it good?
it is, yeah, and it is it's part one. They are going to be producing, Angel Studio is going to be producing part two,
Okay.
because it only gets to, he's maybe 20, 25, 26
Mhm.
by the time that the movie closes.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where he is approached by a Native American. I don't know if he's a chief, but he's certainly a great warrior,
Mhm.
and he hates the French. And the issue is that the French have set up a fort basically in the Ohio Valley, and
Mhm.
that is land that's owned by Lord Fairfax.
Right.
And so you know, the French are not to be there. This is
Yeah.
British land.
Mhm.
And so Washington goes out as a scout and as a surveyor in order to document the land that Lord Fairfax owns and the British own. And this in Native American shows him the settlement. I mean, it's not a settlement. It's a military fort that the
Yeah.
French have built, and Washington's, and they end up doing some work together. And
Mhm.
he says to him, you know, why do you hate the French so much?
Mhm.
And this man says, because I watched them capture and boil my father to death and then eat him. And that's just not the sort of line that somebody throws in
Yeah.
for pretend. Like
No.
has got to be historically
Us,
anchored. I
us
mean,
human, us human beings, man, we are our own thing. Um, but hey, and on that note,
oh, I'm sorry to take it there. Oh my gosh.
we we are winning, right? We're in this battle. We are winning, but we got to take this thing across the finish line, sports fans. If we're going to keep our country, so stay after it. God bless you. I'm so glad you all came to listen tonight. Any closing thoughts, my friend Leslie?
No, we didn't talk about the Iran ceasefire that fell apart, but I'm sure there's going to be more exciting things happening. But anyway, yeah, there's always good and bad in the world, and I will make an effort to not talk about so many bad things, especially at the end next week.
It's
I'm
necessary.
sorry, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next wonderful Wednesday.
Alrighty, bye.
Good night.